The Seismic 7, Chapter 5, Part 1. Dinner, a man announces, rapping on the door. The four of us look up from our game of Scrabble, which Kinsey found in the chest Miss McNamara had talked about. I held my own in the game, despite being stuck with a J for what felt like an eternity. All around us, the wooden walls dance in the light and shadows from our stove's front gate. We barely could see the Scrabble tiles, which Todd decided was perfect, because we voted to play it as Apocalypse Edition, only using words that spelled out the end of times for all humanity. Coming! Kinsey shouts, slamming a letter S onto kaboom for a double word score and declaring herself a winner, even though she started the game so it wasn't really fair she got an extra turn. We all get up. One of the men from earlier waits for us just outside of our cabin, looking grumpy about being on kid duty. So, what's your name anyway? Kinsey asks. Wyatt shuts the door behind us as we start to walk across the cavern. Jerry, the man says. Jerry Stiles. You can call me Mr. Stiles. How long have you worked here, Mr. Stiles? Todd asks. Mr. Stiles sounds like a bad DJ name. I lean down to whisper to Kinsey, who snorts. I've been working with Dr. Greer for many years, he answers. I'm the team's lead engineer. Most of the equipment you'll be using has been designed by me or Dan Fee. He nods toward another man with dark hair heading in our direction. We round a corner to a tarped area, and Mr. Fee joins us. There are two buildings here. One has a couple of people darting in and out, carrying big dishes of food. Around the tarp are a bunch of camping chairs. We're having curry tonight, Miss McNamara says, beaming as she walks up to join us. My favorite, so I'm sticking around for dinner before heading back to my office. Wyatt looks around. What about the other kids? You might meet them tomorrow, she replies. They had dinner on the early shift. They need to tackle some evening work and take care of some things that can't happen when the park is crawling with visitors. I can keep most people away from this area through some basic park management, but even so, we'd rather not take risks. Dr. Greer is lucky she was able to talk Miss McNamara into helping her. I can't imagine this operation working without someone from the National Park Service on the team. The four of us line up to get bowls of curry. There's no table, so everyone holds their bowls on their laps when they sit down to eat. Wyatt scoots himself closer to the space heater that's plugged into a generator on one side. They end up in a different circle of camp chairs than the other kids because Miss McNamara asked me to sit by her, and I can't think fast enough to say no. Unlike her, curry isn't my favorite, but it is my dinner, so I begin picking at it. Miss McNamara watches me for a moment. You know, I think I know a way to let you use your camera here, she eventually says. I drop my fork in my bowl. Really? Miss McNamara stretches her camp chair. Yep. Our biggest concern is obviously people finding out what we're doing and shutting us down. But I've looked at your camera. It doesn't have a Wi-Fi card. There's no way it can connect to the internet. I nod, trying to get my hopes up too high. Seeing as recording work is a major part of the scientific process, I think Samantha would be open to letting you use your camera to document your daily progress. Miss McNamara says, as long as you phrase it the right way, we can get her on board. I've had decades of practice getting her to do things she doesn't initially like. She can be stubborn, but she's logical. A good argument can persuade her. At that, I wonder how long Dr. Greer and Miss McNamara have known each other. Decades sounds like forever, but mostly I'm concentrating on not squealing out loud at the prospect of getting my camera back. That sounds amazing, I managed to say. Will it really work? Give it a try, Miss McNamara says, winking as she stands up and leaves. Dr. Greer moves in to sit in her vacant seat. Oh, she meant give it a try right now. Hi, Dr. Greer, I say. Hello, Brianna. A good argument. I straighten up and try to channel my inner professional adult. So, I was thinking, I'd like to record my work each day. I start. So far, so good. My camera doesn't connect to the internet, so it won't be any risk. But it would give you tons of footage to use if you want to analyze it for any research. I think, scientifically speaking, it's good to have as much data as possible. And this is a kind of data, like visual data, right? I feel like I lost some of my momentum near the end there. Dr. Greer says nothing, and I begin to panic. My science teacher last year was really intense about recording our methods in every experiment. She would go on and on about how that made experiments replicable. I ramble. I understand being scared of anyone finding out what you're doing and getting it wrong and shutting you down and all that, but maybe with video you could show them that you're doing the right thing and that your methods are safe. I shut up after that, not trusting myself to say anything more. To my surprise, after a moment's silence, Dr. Greer nods. Fair points, she says. Recordings could be useful for training purposes. My heart leaps, even though that wasn't one of the reasons I'd given her. Whatever convinces her is fine by me. But how can I trust that you won't leak the video somehow? She asks me. I'll give you my camera every night, I say, kicking myself the second the words come out of my mouth. Why did I suggest that? Come on. Dr. Greer's eyebrows twitch up in interest, so I continue. That way, you'll know I'm not doing anything against the rules, and the footage can be like a daily report for you to review, and you can tell me if there's anything you want me to change. I await her response, my breath held, squeezing against my chest. Eventually, she nods once again. Not a bad plan. Okay, you've convinced me. My mouth falls open. I did? I ask, then immediately wince. Not the professional way to respond. I mean, thank you. Dr. Vera studies me for a moment, and it is impossible to read her expression. You're welcome. I'm going to get my camera back. Yes, I shovel several bites of curry into my mouth so I don't say or do anything else embarrassing. Congratulations, Miss McNamara rejoins us, smiling at me and putting on her park ranger hat. You managed to talk Dr. Greer into something faster than even I usually can. She's a smart girl, Dr. Greer says. Logical. I respect that. You could go far in the sciences. She nods at me, and a bubble of pride swells up inside. Maybe Dr. Greer isn't so bad. Bree, are you going to eat your whole dinner with the adults and ignore us? Get over here, Kinsey demands from her camp chair on the other side of the tarped area. What if I like adults better? I reply, settling farther into my own chair. Sucking up is Todd's job, Kinsey calls back. Hey, Todd objects. All right, you kids have a good night, Miss McNamara says to the full group. I have to head back to the office, but Mr. Stiles and Mr. Fee will begin the introductions to your gear after dinner. We all wave goodbye to Miss McNamara and finish eating our meals. The moment the last forkful of rice reaches my mouth, Dr. Greer speaks up once again. First on the gear list, boots, she says. We've ordered the boot sizes your parents requested for you on your applications, but we need to confirm those are correct. The sound of a pulled tape measure whooshing into its case snaps my attention behind us. There, the two men from earlier stand. Mr. Fee holds several large bags. Shoes off, Mr. Stiles says, impatiently tapping the tape measure on his palm. A man in big rubber gloves comes out with a dish tub for utensils and bowls, and Kinsey drops her bowl into it from a height that ensures maximum clattering. Then she drops her fork from an even greater height. Dr. Greer puts one hand to the side of her head like she's going to rub her temple, but then pauses and lowers her hand back to her side. I'll let Mr. Stiles and Mr. Fee take it from here. Dr. Greer leaves us as we all kick our shoes off onto the tarp on the ground. Even with the lights strung up around here, the darkness of the cave quickly envelops her as she heads away toward a cabin at the far edge of camp. We're going to measure you all to make sure you've got the right fit, Mr. Fee explains, holding up the tape measure and jiggling it back and forth for emphasis. Now, which one of you is the amputee? I blink at that. Say what? Kinsey asks. Wyatt puts a hand up. I I guess that's me. But I'm not an amputee. I was born like this. He hikes up his left pant leg to the knee. What? Kinsey spins. Whoa! I can't help but move to get a closer look, even though I immediately realize that's an inappropriate reaction. Halfway down Wyatt's left leg, a few inches after his knee, there's a plastic cap and then something that looks like rubber, but is much sturdier. I'm guessing there's metal under it. The end of it goes straight into a sneaker, tied up just like mine. All right, buddy, we've got a special boot just for you. Mr. Styles' voice changes. He sounds like he's talking to a 5-year-old. Stay right where you are, Mr. Fee says, fishing through his bag. We'll bring it to you. I can walk, Wyatt says. That's the entire point of my prosthetic. To emphasize that, he stands up from his camp chair, walks over, and takes the boot Mr. Fee is holding. Hey now, calm down. We're not trying to be insulting, Mr. Styles says. We just don't want you to hurt yourself, Mr. Fee says. We've got some difficult work ahead of you. Wyatt sits back down with the boot in hand, undoing the laces off his prosthetic. What makes you think I'm going to hurt myself? I've been walking around here just fine, haven't I? Walking the camp and scaling the tunnels are totally different things, Mr. Styles says. He turns to Mr. Fee. Maybe it'd be better if he didn't do the tunnel work. He could help Nolan. I won't slow anything down, Wyatt states firmly. Who's Nolan? Todd asks. Mr. Styles grunts, ignoring Todd and warily eyeing Wyatt. Geez Louise, he said he'll be fine, Kinsey butts in, glaring at the two men. Stop being insensitive jerk faces. They fall awkwardly silent. I want to applaud Kinsey and hug Wyatt, but I can tell he wouldn't be happy about that attention. After Mr. Fee finishes with Todd's boots, Todd scoots over to Wyatt. Okay, but for real, do you think it'll actually be hard for you to do the work we have to do? I hear him ask. Wyatt shrugs. I've never been spelunking for super volcanoes before. Maybe, maybe not. Will it be for you? Todd sits back, silenced. I smirk a little. Well, those are the ugliest things I've ever seen, Kinsey says, at the sight of our dark blue jumpsuits, distracting all of us, which was perhaps her goal so Wyatt could catch a break. Mr. Styles hands me my jumpsuit from a bag. I poke at the reflective tape running down it. What are you talking about, Kinsey? These are most definitely the height of fashion. After we finish trying on our tunneling uniforms, we're sent back to our cabin for the night. Once inside, Kinsey tosses her boots and jumpsuit onto the floor and kicks them against the wooden wall. What a weird, weird day, she says. I don't know if I'm going to sleep like a log or not sleep at all, I agree, folding up my jumpsuit and placing it on my duffel bag. I can't stress this enough. You might see this as an imaginary line, but it is a very real line across the room, Todd says from the boys' side. Actually, I trail off, looking around. We could possibly do with a changing wall. I don't want to have to get dressed in those little porta-potty bathrooms each day. Good call, Bree, Kinsey says. She goes to the corner where there's a pile of blankets. How about these? I glance at the open rafters on the ceilings. Perfect. After 20 minutes of climbing up on boxes and draping blankets to divide the cabin down the middle, we all step back to examine our handiwork. Satisfied that things are sufficiently blocked off, we call it a night. I curl up in my sleeping bag, pulling it tight around me. Tomorrow, we start our work to save the planet. Because, yep, that's a thing we're doing.